listener production.
Hey, Chris Beer with you. Happy Monday and welcome to The Briefing. Our obsession with skincare is nothing new, but an exploding demand for peptides is blurring the lines between evidence-based treatment and risky products.
It's basically, how can I look and feel younger, even if I'm a certain age? How can I turn back the clock? Is that possible? How can I optimize cellular function for health, for well-being, for longevity?
So just how dangerous is this demand for peptides and what do we need to know? That deep dive is coming up in the second half of this episode. First, though, let's get into the headlines with Sasha Barbagat. It's Monday, the 16th of Feb.
Hey Chris, happy Monday. The New Look Liberal Party will shift its policies and shadow ministers to the right as it looks to win back support following Friday's leadership spill. Now, you would have seen Angus Taylor and his deputy Jane Hume out and about all weekend. And while they didn't announce any specific policies, they did signal some areas they want to focus on, including migration, housing and taxes. But they've already been criticised for trotting out the same lines seen under Susan Lee and Peter Dutton.
We need to focus on Australians' priorities, holding a bad Labor government, a rotten Labor government to account, and focusing on restoring Australians' standard of living and protecting their way of life.
Angus Taylor and I will lead the team to the next election to make sure that we protect Australians' standard of living, restore Australians' standard of living and protect their way of life. That's what they're telling us is so important, and that's exactly what we'll do.
So that was on Sky and ABC there, respectively, and you could hear them trotting out that same line, although Hume was already starting to stumble over it, so maybe they didn't drill it in hard enough over the weekend.
Yeah, and I mean, in fairness to them, though, like one of the key criticisms of the Liberal Party in the wake of the election, and honestly during the election, was that they could not be on the same page or talk in the same way about things. So I guess seeing some sort of unity here is nice in a way. The pair's also signalled a move away from its ideological approach to energy policies, a renewed focus on housing and bringing in lower taxes. The new opposition leader has also flagged wanting to work with Labor on a task force to slash government spending.
Meantime, Taylor is trying to work out his front bench with a move towards the more conservative expected in his shadow cabinet. Among those likely to be handed key roles include Andrew Hastie and Jacinta Nampijinpa-Price, as well as those who supported his bid for leadership.
While a new poll out today has given the Liberals a slight bump in support under Taylor, respondents in the latest Resolve Political Monitor were asked about how they'd vote if former leader Susan Lee was in charge. She scored 3 points lower than the new leader. One Nation, though, was still neck and neck with both parties tying on 23%.
Yeah, so there is concern still about the backlash among women voters in that the Liberal Party has ousted its first federal leader ever in Susan Lee, and they only gave her 9 months in the role, so hardly enough time to kind of really bed in. And we saw over the weekend yesterday, Charlotte Mortlock, she's the founder of the Hilmers Network, which looked to promote and support Liberal women and kind of bolster their position within the party. She's quit, and she not only quit the network, but she also quit the Liberal Party. She handed in her Liberal Party membership, saying, due to recent events, I have decided there are other ways I can support women and Australia. So whether that blowback continues on and we see it in the Farrer by-election, which is Susan Lee's seat, which we haven't got a date for yet, but we will eventually, whether we see the Liberal Party pay for that, time will tell.
Staying with politics, and Anthony Albanese has shaken off concerns around AUKUS while unveiling plans for a new $30 billion nuclear submarine construction yard in Adelaide. He released the plans alongside South Australian Premier Peter Malinauskas, the PM yesterday promising to make a $3.9 billion down payment to expand the existing Osborne site.
We do live in an uncertain world, but we can be certain of the economic benefit to the tune of $30 billion.
The expansion will require enough steel to make 17 Eiffel Towers, as well as around 10,000 workers to get it all done, which the Premier has described as
arguably the most structurally significant contribution to our economy that we will ever see.
So once completed, it'll be the only site in the Southern Hemisphere that'll be able to build nuclear-powered subs and is expected to support around 5,500 jobs once operational. Worth noting here, South Australia is heading to the polls next month, so this is obviously a huge boost for South Australia from the jobs front and investing in such big industry in that state. Also, you know, the reason that this is so significant is there's so many questions about AUKUS at the moment. We know that Donald Trump has kind of said, yeah, we'll still keep going with it. But very non-committally, and we know that his focus is America first, the US first, and AUKUS is, you know, about an alliance between Australia, the US and the UK. And it's also part of the reason why our government's been very hesitant to publicly and openly criticise any of Donald Trump's policies, because they want this deal to go ahead. So the fact that this Labor government has chosen to make such a huge investment, some are asking if it's the right idea, but I guess, you know, the deal is signed. They have to continue like it's actually a thing, Chris.
To Italy now, where this Winter Olympics has been declared Australia's best ever, with 5 medals so far and our first games with 3 gold. Overnight, Matt Graham brought our total to 5 after claiming bronze in the men's dual moguls.
We're all one team. We're all out here striving to be the best, and to have Cooper win the gold, Jakara win the gold, me with the bronze. It's not the same colour, but it's the best bronze medal I've ever won.
That was Graham there speaking on 9, and you heard him there referencing his fellow flag bearer, Jakara Anthony. She managed to shake off her shock moguls loss last week to win gold in the dual moguls over the weekend. Look at us getting all excited about the Winter Olympics. How the turntables have turned.
Oh, yes. Well, the moguls are easily Australia's most lucrative sport at this Games. Out of the 4 events at Milano Cortina, we've medalled in 3 of them. And if you're like me and maybe you were just reporting on it and you've never actually watched what this is and you go, what is mogul skiing? Let me tell you, because I've actually looked into it this morning because I'm like, I should care about this event. So it's freestyle skiing on like this steep, bumpy course, and you go really fast. You do all these technical turns and aerial maneuvers. And if you do it in the duels, which is what Matt Graham won in, you race someone down the course. So I asked someone we work with in the newsroom here at Listener, who is a big Winter Olympics fan.
Yeah, shout out to you, Tessa.
Hey, Tessa. I'm like, how would you describe this? And she's like, it's high intensity. It's really exciting. I guess if there's any event you're going to watch these Olympics, it's got to be the moguls, right?
Yeah, and this is the one that we earlier referred to as the one where you go swoosh and wee.
No, I think that's different.
That's different. My bad.
Also, just noting, we have 16-year-old Ali Hickman, who has made it into the women's snowboard slopestyle final. So I'll have to go Google what that event is next.
Back home now, and a 52-year-old man is set to face court today after being charged with stealing multiple Egyptian artefacts from a Queensland museum. 4 artefacts were stolen from the Abbey Museum of Art and Archaeology in Caboolture, north of Brisbane, early on Friday morning. The man had allegedly smashed a window to get in, and while police had suspected an organised crime link early on, evidence suggested it was quite amateurish, leading to the man's arrest on Saturday night.
Authorities say while the man has been living in his car, the motive did not appear to be financial gain. The stolen items include a more than 3,000-year-old necklace, a mummy mask, and a rare painted wooden cat.
The 52-year-old has been charged with break and enter and 3 counts of willful damage after the items and others sustained damage during the theft. He will face the Cleveland Magistrates Court today.
And there are few things a politician can do to earn them legend status. Bob Hawke sculling a beer is the only one that really comes to mind for me right now. But one premier has tried to do that over the weekend with this announcement.
In 2026, we will be having an additional public holiday in New South Wales on the 27th of April, Monday the 27th of April, after Anzac Day, obviously, on the 25th.
Yes, if you're in New South Wales, you'll be getting April 27th off this year because Anzac Day is falling on a Saturday. And Chris Minns says that'll continue next year with the day falling on a Sunday.
Yeah, and for context, only Western Australia and the ACT do this. Now, we don't have any word yet on whether the other states and territories will follow suit. It is worth noting, though, that New South Wales has the least public holidays of all the states. We only get 11, the same as WA, compared to 13 for the ACT and Victoria. Shout out to you, our Melbourne listeners. 12 for the NT and South Australia as well. Some states, though, they do get half days, including Tassie and Queensland, which means, you know, they do score slightly better than us here in New South Wales. I love this.
Yeah.
I love that we're getting this. This is very exciting. And I know it's only on a trial basis, but I mean, shout out to you, Minzy, I guess.
Well, I mean, no one's going to look a public holiday gift horse in the mouth.
Well, business owners, Sash,
True.
They're not happy.
True. They're going to have to pay penalty rates
Mm-hmm.
and, they have complained.
Yeah, my dad and I always go head to head on this. I'm always like, yes, we do need more public holidays. I love a public holiday. I worked in hospitality during public holidays. There's tools at business owners' disposals. There's things like surcharges that you can have less staff should you wish to make conscious business decision making. I can hear my dad already drafting a text reply. But yeah, great news, I guess, if you're in New South Wales.
Yeah, sure. Well, that is it for the headlines today. Thank you for listening and for being with us on a Monday morning. Next up, we are getting into a deep dive looking at peptides in skincare. You don't want to miss it. It's coming up next.
You've shown no remorse or apologised for her death.
Hi, I'm Alison Sandy, National Investigations Editor at the 7 Network.
He was the last person to see her after they had an argument at their family home.
And I've got a new podcast out.
I've got nothing to say to you.
Kiss and Kill is a deep dive on some of the nation's most notorious killer narcissists and expert abusers.
Very deliberate manipulation.
Examining their telltale signs and patterns of behaviour.
To make her think that she's nuts.
Do you know the single biggest predictor that somebody could escalate dangerously?
So you know exactly what to look out for.
Is that they are controlling.
More women are being murdered by their partners than ever before.
Introducing Kiss and Kill.
He used to call her princess.
To listen, search Kiss and Kill on the Listener app or wherever you get your podcasts.
Hey, it's Helen Smith here. Peptides are being hailed online as the next big health trend for beauty, fitness and biohacking, promising everything from glowing skin and rapid fat loss to muscle growth, anti-aging and even a boosted libido. In a quick scroll through TikTok, Instagram, Discord or Telegram, you'll find influencers documenting their personal journeys with injectable compounds that sound more like science fiction than skincare. But behind the glossy before and after photos and viral transformation videos is a far more complicated story. Dr Ryan De Cruz is a leading dermatologist and he joins me now. Ryan, firstly, what are peptides and how do they work?
So peptides are the building blocks that when put together form proteins. So they're short chains of amino acids. So amino acids are singular, they come together, they make peptides, and then peptides come together to form proteins. In the skin and in the body in general, peptides can have many different functions. So the most common function is as what we call carrier peptides. So peptides will bring together or move within a cell certain atoms or anions or ions such as copper. So that's one of the most common ones. So copper peptides you may have heard of are really important for cellular function, not just within the skin but throughout the body as well.
And why are they blowing up on social media right now? Why is there such a demand for peptides?
I think it stems from the fact that now more and more skincare companies and many other companies are incorporating peptides because it is a buzzword into their formulations. We've known about peptides for decades. They're certainly not new, but they're probably being used more and more in skincare products and have been formulated to have biological effects on the skin, so it can be used topically. But of course, there are many peptides that are still injected or taken orally as well. So I think it's one of those fads that, as people hear more about, they're more interested, as there's more research being done on the biological effects of peptides, it's also garnering more interest. And I think it's a bit of a snowball effect.
Can you unpack some specific types of peptides that we might be seeing pop up in the comments section? For example, I keep seeing people commenting GHK -CU or glow, and people are asking, which is better? Which should I get? Which one should I order? What do some of those mean?
You mentioned Cu as being the symbol for copper. So it's a copper ion. So that would refer to a copper peptide. And again, a copper peptide is because copper is a really important metal ion involved in many cellular processes. So if we're copper deplete or deficient, our cells don't work properly and our enzymes don't work properly. So by incorporating copper peptides, you're getting more carrier peptides that have copper. Glow is if people are actually asking what about Glow peptide, it'll be a trademarked, branded sort of peptide. And then again, it comes down to this deep dive on the internet that people are doing because they're getting so much information presented to them via social media, on Reddit, and people are discussing them. The reality is that it's very hard to make a good evidence-based recommendation simply based on what's fed to us through social media and through marketing. It comes down to understanding, as I alluded to earlier, the dosing, the formulation, the pH, the other ingredients within a skincare product to then make a good recommendation of one product over another. And those sort of head-to-head trials and that sort of data is really lacking. So it really then comes down to what one person says versus another, and often how much they're getting paid.
Another theory that is online as well, that peptides are blowing up because of the Ozempic effect and the massive success of GLP-1, which are peptides, and this is for weight loss. And so the public curiosity has sparked about what other injectable miracles exist. What would you say about that kind of theory?
Yeah, I couldn't agree more. I think when you have such a famous drug such as semaglutide, and now we've got tirzepatide, and soon we'll have retatrutide, these are all revolutionary peptides, as you say, that are really changing the face of modern medicine. It's not that the peptide concept is new, because many drugs that we've had for actually many decades are also peptides. It's just that they haven't necessarily caught the hearts and minds of the public in terms of their biological effect. It's really because, I guess, the weight loss curiosity, the obesity epidemic, the cardiovascular disease epidemic that we're facing in the Western world is such a massive problem that people are really genuinely very interested and excited by medications that may assist weight loss. And unfortunately, because it's human nature, we think that these are certain miracle drugs that can save us from having to do the hard work, when we know in reality that's not what they're about and that's not how they should be prescribed. But yeah, absolutely, these medications have a lot of interest and a lot of very strong opinions, either positive or negative or in somewhere in between. And I think that has really made a lot of people go, aha, if we can tap into this peptide market and to say that our skincare contains peptides, or that we've got an oral ingestible peptide that will do X, Y, or Z, automatically people go, oh, well, that's just like semaglutide or Ozempic or Wegovy, and maybe it's going to be good for me. So there's a halo effect that I think surrounds a lot of these agents.
Another buzzword peptide that we've been seeing is this so-called Barbie drug, which is melatonin 2, which is claimed to leave users with a tan, weight loss, and also increased libido. What are your thoughts on peptides being branded like the Barbie drug?
Yeah, I think it's a recipe for disaster, really. I think the minute you add such sort of very evocative language surrounding what's effectively a therapeutic agent or a biological agent, you're really using a marketing technique or tool to sell a medication that may actually have significant harmful effects, that doesn't have the data to back it up and doesn't have the longevity of other medications, but also appeals to the sort of person who is interested in looking their best, feeling hot and sexually active, and having all of those kind of what society, I guess, purports to be the attributes that we should aspire to. So it's really trying to appeal to our vanity, our sense of self-esteem, our appearance, and all of those things, and promise it in a single, as you say, peptide. And the reality is that we know that if it sounds too good to be true, it usually is. And this really, I think, holds very true for these sorts of products.
Another part of this conversation is biohacking. Can you explain what that means?
Sure. It's the concept which, in theory, is actually a good one. It's a positive one. It's trying to understand, well, how does the human body function at a cellular biological level, at an enzymatic level, and what can we do to promote those sorts of cellular processes as much as possible to optimize health and longevity? So, in theory, it's great. It's basically, how can I look and feel younger, even if I'm a certain age? How can I turn back the clock? Is that possible? How can I optimize cellular function for health, for well-being, for longevity? But in theory, it has got a good basis. It's, trying to optimize health as much as possible. But of course, inevitably leads to people saying, well, we can help optimize your cellular function by recommending X, Y, or Z herbs or supplements or vitamins, right? So it's then tapping into that whole very unregulated vitamin and supplement market. Or it's saying, well, we can, provide this skincare, which can, perform this biohacking action. Again, it's just a slippery slope into a marketing dream.
And where are people buying these peptides? I had a quick Google online and they seemed pretty accessible. Is it safe? Is it legal? How does that work?
Yeah, it's actually pretty scary because you can purchase any number of things online that in Australia are what we'd call Schedule 4 or potentially Schedule 8 medications that require a prescription or a pharmacist approval. And you can buy these agents online without such approval, so without a prescription. You'll have medications or drugs, peptides that aren't actually commercially available in Australia being imported from other countries. So it's incredibly easy to do. I've heard of certain websites where you sort of just deposit an amount of money and then they'll send you an unmarked box with, something that purports to be semaglutide or Wegovy. Now, is it? Or is it not? And actually, there have been many cases of these dupes, these kind of artificial products being shipped out, labelled as a particular drug, but have either been saline or something else, so completely unrelated and has been no biological activity. So the risks are certainly major because you just don't know where it's coming from, number one. Number two, if it's not prescribed to you by a reputable healthcare professional and you are simply buying it and starting, these sorts of medications or peptides off your own volition based on what you've read on Reddit, then you really have to ask yourself, whose advice are you taking? What sort of potential risks are you exposing yourself to?
And some of these influencers, and they call themselves biohackers, are reaching kids and teenagers as young as 14, have been reportedly ordering these substances using their parents' credit cards and then injecting them into themselves. Are there any specific biological risks a developing body like a 14-year-old or even younger can face when potentially injecting hormones or growth-promoting peptides?
Absolutely. And I think the risks are innumerable, right? So first and foremost, there is no role for a young person to be injecting anything without the prescription of either a pediatrician or some other specialist who has the adequate credentials and has the research backing to prescribe something for a particular person. It is really worrying because young children are being exposed to the world of social media, including, physical appearance. A lot of young men in particular, young boys or teenagers, are being exposed to the whole kind of personal training, bulking up sphere, the health, the bodybuilding world. And these sorts of peptides are obviously very commonly used in these sorts of spheres. They are now being exposed to drugs that they shouldn't be exposed to because they could well have quite harmful effects on growth, development, potential for fertility issues down the track, and potential for malignancy or cancer. So this is a very, very scary time if young people are, without their parents' knowledge or permission, accessing potentially lethal or life-threatening medications or peptides that have, no role in a young person. It's definitely very worrying.
Dr. Ryan, thank you so much for joining us on The Briefing.
Thanks for having me.
That was leading dermatologist Dr. Ryan De Cruz there. And thanks for listening to this episode of The Briefing. That's it for now. Before you go, though, we'd love it if you could share this app with someone else you think might enjoy it as well. It's a really easy way you can support us here at The Briefing. And you can also check us out on Instagram at The Briefing Podcast. I'm Helen Smith. Catch you next time.